Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Welcome back to Realistic Sustainability. I'm Mike, and I am here with Mr. Rob Bogan from The Curated Culture. How are you today?
Wonderful. Fantastic. That was
I got to dance. No one got to see that. I got to dance.
That was what we like to call some feigned energy. I think we are both fighting off exhaustion right now. It's been a busy week, but I can't think of a better way to wrap it up, man. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's well, today was just busy. Today for me was take kids to school early in the morning because they were apparently begging because of the Arctic weather. They didn't want to walk a great distance in 7-degree weather before wind chill. So I was peer pressured by the children to take them to school. And then I worked all day. You know, we're back to normal at the engineering firm. So everybody's back to panic mode. And right after that, taught kids STEM classes. We made wizard wands that lit up when you hit a button. The LED on the end goes off. Kind of cool.
Nice.
And robotics before this. So yeah, it's been a day.
Yeah. The kids, did you happen to tell them that when you were in school, you had to walk barefoot in snow uphill both ways?
I didn't. I took the bus. Couldn't even use that. But no, it was chilly today. So fine, I guess I'll drive you the 1/8 of a mile.
I'm sure they enjoyed it.
They're very needy.
Yes.
Very needy. It's like they want warmth and safety. It's so weird.
How dare they?
You and we've chatted back and forth on a computer, but we haven't even talked since like New Year's. How was your New Year's?
It was great, man. I am one that I don't usually do a whole lot on New Year's. I am fearful of the drunkards who happen to be out and about at that time. So I genuinely just sat around with the fam. We stayed up and watched the ball drop, and then we all went to bed shortly after.
Yeah, we weren't better. I'd love to say we had all this amazing activity, but then I would be the guy who lied on his own show. So I will say, for my own entertainment, you had made a comment. You asked me what I was doing for New Year's. So I took that as if you wanted to go do something. So I'm like, hey, does that mean I'm going to get you out of the house? And then you ghosted me until like next year.
Yeah. See you next year. Yeah, I apologize, man. I am terrible with that. Anytime there is an inkling of me having to socialize, I just disappear. I'm out of there.
I told Jamie, I said, oh, he left the door open here. Then, it's like 2 days later, she's like, did you hear from Rob? I'm like, no, he slammed that thing shut. I think there's a bolt on that door, and he may have scrapped our friendship. I don't know, but I don't think he wants to go anywhere.
No, man. On the well, from personal experiences, it's hard enough to get me out of the house on a regular day.
I couldn't get you out for breakfast. All the guys meet for breakfast on Sunday, and it's like we're chatting back and forth. Says this, so it says that. The next thing it says Rob Bogan has left the chat.
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't laugh, but that is me as a whole. I felt like I didn't have much to contribute, and then I'm like social anxiety, which is weird because I podcast and I go to Comic Cons and stuff all the time.
Yeah,
I'll do better in 2025.
Well, I'm thinking about here at Dabble holding a class for podcasting.
Nice.
It's going to be I guarantee it's going to be mostly younger people, but right now I can do the audio stuff. I wouldn't be comfortable teaching any video editing and stuff like that, but we can talk about topics and ways to manage your show and fun. Anything that's different, how it is here at Dabble. We're just making stuff up as we go.
Yeah. Scripting. You're pretty good at that.
Anyways, we should probably do a show.
I thought that's what we were doing.
That's what happens when you and I get together. We're like, oh, we were supposed to have a topic.
Yeah, I know, but it's cool because everything just kind of freely flows. And I know tonight's topic specific, I apologize to you at the top. Like, I didn't do a whole lot of research, man. But this one I feel like is going to be good. I feel like we'll be able to bat this one back and forth and have a really good, productive conversation.
I'm not sure a ton of people think about mental health or how you think about stuff as a topic. I don't think enough people think about sustainability from the concept of seeing something from a sustainable eye or just self-preservation. If I remember correctly, January is the mental wellness month. So it kind of fits together, right? I think sometimes we forget that.
There's several like mental health, mental awareness months. May and September are two. May is like, mental health awareness, and then September is, suicide prevention month. Hopefully I'm not getting those two mixed up. But yeah, there's holidays, or I guess special days for just about everything now. But I do feel like mental health is one of those things that it is important enough to be recognized year round, I think.
Think about some things right now in sustainability. We're in the United States. Sustainability is going to be a tough subject for a few years, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've had people get a hold of me kind of freaking out. What happened if this happens? What happens if that happens? And came out with that short PSA of stay within your 3 miles, those kinds of things, because that is part of sustainability. If you can't think straight, you can't do anything else. And it's really important to reset. I understand the importance of the stuff on the macro scale. Trust me, it doesn't just float by me. I understand. But you also have to live, and you also have to live well, and you also have to continue to do good. Remember, we talk about our positive footprint. That's a realistic sustainability thing, not just not screwing things up, but making things better. And you can't do that if somebody uses the news, if you're watching the news every day, because by the time you're done, you're exhausted, you're angry, and everybody sucks.
Yeah, literally.
So you have to do some, as my mom calls them, mental jumping jacks sometimes to get through those harder times and still have a productive, good life, even when some of the things around you aren't what you wish they would be.
Right. It's really funny that, we talk about this. I posted something on my socials earlier, just kind of reminding people of that, with everything that's going on or that will go on, nobody really knows exactly, what will be until it actually happens. But the one thing that we are all directly in control of is how we react and how we respond to things. And it's going to be more important than ever to dive into those things that make you happy. And I mentioned going out and touching grass.
Grounding.
As one of those things. Yeah. But to relate it back to this show and the subject matter at hand, getting out, touching grass, walking, that is part of sustainability in and of itself. You're not jumping in a car, burning gas, using up a lot of energy. You're not contributing to any sort of negative emissions or anything like that. And I think that's something that we should all be prepared to focus on, not specifically just walking, but kind of safeguarding our energy.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, this last summer with Hawaii was pretty cool. I mean, I won't let it go. I talk about it all the time, but it reminded me how much I like to hike. And I've been pretty bummed out. I've gained a ton of weight, just sitting at desk jobs and not getting any sleep and gained a ton of weight. So now I've realized, well, people liked it when I took them with me. And not everybody who listens to this show is in Michigan. So even if I hike in Michigan and show them the trails and show them the color changes on the leaves or show them the snow and the beautiful areas or whatever it is, that's still new to them. And there's value in that. So my mental gymnastic is I'm doing content in the woods so everybody else can enjoy it, but I'm going to get the hike. I'm going to get the fresh air. I'm going to get the activity out of it. I fully understand this whole pretend it's one thing, but get the other with that mental gymnastics. But sometimes you have to do it.
Definitely.
Today, we're going to talk about the two main standpoints of sustainable thinking. One of them The first one is what people tend to think of when you think about sustainable thinking, and that is the seeing things from a more sustainable eye, looking at lifestyle, looking at consumerism as a personal scope. So that's the first aspect of sustainable thinking. And that's probably the one that people think about most.
Yeah, I know. I am one of those people. You know, we always joke about the sheer amount of shoes that I own.
I know I said you'll never have to buy shoes again. You've got enough pairs to live your life.
I would find a reason to. I definitely would. Within reason. And what I mean by that is fashionably within reason. I know you sent me a pair of shoes that I should consider, but absolutely not. Absolutely not. But yes, I am one of those that I have to also shift my mindset kind of away from consumerism and more into a do I actually need this sort of mentality? And I think when we start thinking about things that way, we are naturally moving towards sustainability.
Just the fact of thinking that you didn't just grab it and throw it in a cart is already the first step of sustainable thinking. When every once in a while, Jamie gives me some hell because I'm looking at 3 of the exact same thing, but I'm purposely picking one of them because it's packaged differently. Well, why didn't you get this one? Because they've got an extra layer of plastic.
Okay.
But what that meant was I didn't just look at the 3 and say which one's prettiest. Which one has the happiest person on the front? Or they use the best buzzword of 90% fat free, which by the way is just 10% fat. They just say it backwards. Right. I'm looking at what is the embodied energy? What was put into making these products? And I try to, as often as I can, pick the one that looks like, because I have to do it based on what I see, what looks like it had the least amount. Now, is it made locally? Is it a brand that I've seen the building? I know it's not going as far. Now, granted, just so you know, you can see a building, but it may not be the building that product came from. You got to keep that in mind too. But I try to get more local, those kinds of things. So that's part of that sustainable thinking, is looking at it and making that decision. Now, you may still be buying the thing that you didn't actually need. That's like the next level thinking. At least you attempted to look and see which one would be the least painful.
You know, what's weird to me is as I'm out in like grocery shopping, for example, not specifically sneaker shopping, but I've noticed that companies now are kind of doing these. I don't know, man. I guess I'll call it like a bait and switch. So, aluminum has been all the rage, right? Like it's infinitely recyclable and supposed to be much better for you. But I've noticed that a lot of companies now are doing, instead of bottled water or boxed water, they're putting water in these aluminum cans, and they are also wrapping these aluminum cans in very thin sheets of plastic and using ink that is very much not recycle friendly. So it's like you kind of trick people into thinking like, okay, I'm going to get these aluminum cans because they can be recycled. But, the packaging and printing materials that they're wrapped in makes them non-recyclable because it's not as simple as just cutting it off.
Well, I mean, there's some methods if need be. You're right. Aluminum is very close to 100% recyclable, and it's cheaper to recycle aluminum than it is to get it from bauxite, that's pretty rare. Usually you recycle something and it's more expensive. And it really depends on your intention. It depends on what you plan. If you plan to use it for a long period of time, is that water bottle something that you can just rinse out and use again over and over and over again? I don't know if you remember, I did a couple of little short videos a while back where I talked about just using anything as a drinking bottle. Addison, who played soccer, my daughter, wanted to use a Hershey syrup bottle that was empty as her water bottle because she just thought it would be hilarious if she ran to the sidelines and it looked like she was shooting Hershey syrup. But it's a water bottle. It's just a bottle.
I do agree with the notion that is absolutely hilarious, by the way.
Which is great because the first one she said is during a recycling day, she brought a bottle out of someone else's recycling and she wanted to use the Absolute vodka bottle for water, which, not great for a school. So I
No.
made some videos about that, making jokes about reusable bottles, but you can't. All of that stuff is in some way reusable.
Hmm.
And it's only costly to recycle if you recycle it. If we're using it for something all the time, doesn't matter. Now, here's the thing. You buy the aluminum bottle because you're like, hey, look at me. I'm being totally sustainable. And you drink that water and throw it in the trash. I'm going to yell at you and post things online and call you out. I'm going to get all kinds of angry because that's not how it works.
Right. I see that a lot too. I notice that, in their effort to be more environment friendly, people will buy things that are supposed to be easier to recycle, which I personally, I enjoy the effort at least. Like I've noticed whenever I do wind up with a plastic bottle, I've noticed the bottles themselves are a lot wimpier, we'll say. They're a lot thinner because people are reducing the use of plastic. Now, reducing still doesn't help because plastic on the opposite end of aluminum is not very recycling friendly. And what's that statistic out there? Is it like 89% of all plastic ever manufactured is still like not recycled?
Oh, no. Well, not recycled. I thought you were going to say is still around in the world, because that answer is 100%. Every piece of plastic ever made on the planet is still on the planet.
There we go.
And you're right that there is some issues still. It's more marketing than it is sustainable still to this day. And I don't think, at least temporarily, it's going to get much better. We have to do the things. We can actually make companies do the right thing. We just have to buy the right stuff. That's the reality. Companies don't care if they're being sustainable or not. Most don't care. They'll do the marketing thing if they think it's going to get them more sales. But I'll tell you, they'll actually make the change if it wildly increase their sales. We look at corporations quite often as big evil corporations, and a lot of times it's because of their actions. But if for some reason doing the right thing made them the most money, they would do the right thing.
Yeah, with relative ease, because at that point it's still all about profit. So I guess my question is, I know on the business side, sustainability and sustainable practices are generally not very cost effective. So there's very little incentive for these corporations to do so. And I feel like I've asked this before, but I think it bears repeating. Why do you think it is that on the consumer side, why is it so much harder to make those simple swaps? Staying with your 3 miles, buying locally, using less waste. Why is it something that we continue to struggle with? In fact, could potentially get even worse with over the next several years?
First thing is, there's a lot of great people who do make those changes, who have done the little bit, big bit, and have worked their way into a pretty significant change. There's some people who cold turkey change that are just amazing, but change is hard. In humanity, we did a short on the guy with the horse because we're talking about electric cars. Every complaint that you hear about an electric car minus the fight, even the fire, is a complaint that a man on horseback said about cars 100 years ago. We have not changed 125 years ago. We have not changed. The same complaints, the same ignorance to topics happens generation after generation after generation. Change is hard for humanity. And only those who can step back out of their life for a second and look more objectively, that looking with a sustainable eye, or are thinking in that 3-mile scope, have an easier time doing so. There's some people who will never make that change because their TV said so, good or bad. Sustainability factors almost always are cheaper. Really, they really are. And I mean that for corporations, and I mean that for people. They're almost always cheaper because you're just reducing waste. You're just buying less things. Something as simple as printing on both sides of a piece of paper saves a ton of paper, which in this case saves money for the company. Pushing your ink to grayscale. Half those things that get printed out, someone looks at it and then throws it away. They just didn't want to look at it on the screen. They had to hold it and take it to the meeting and then throw it away. Use 10% of the ink instead of 100. It is almost always easier. I'm sorry, not easier. It's almost always cheaper, but it's still change. It's still change. So that's where you see the bigger problems. There's things I've changed in my life didn't stick. I mean, shoot, I like to blame Jamie. Like when she was coming around and we were dating, that was a slim man. I had gotten heavy and then slim back down to my fighting weight of like 220.
Yeah.
And here we are, one COVID and marriage away. And it was, here I got to start that game over. I didn't keep those habits.
Right. I got you.
Because change is hard. And I think it is when you're always buying the same ketchup, when you always buy the same toilet paper. Sometimes it takes a little extra effort to try something new. I will tell you, some of those try something news have been fantastic in my house. The dryer balls, for example. We have not bought dryer sheets in years. We literally have 6 wool balls that go in the dryer. It costs only electricity to do dry your clothes. And then washing, I use detergent sheets. Instead of carrying big jugs all over hell or pods, we just use those detergent sheets. I can get a large amount of them for very little money, and laundry has become very, very inexpensive. Those changes stuck, but not all of them.
Yeah, and that's something that, I think of like on a larger scale, just something as simple as laundry. When you make those substitutions, like just how much more beneficial it is, right? Because that when you do the laundry and you buy those, super powerful detergents and things like that, and the washing cycle goes through, and that water has to be pumped out somewhere. Like, where's that going? How is it being treated? Is it actually being treated? And then you go through several loads of laundry, and now you got this big giant empty jug, this plastic jug just floating around. Dryer sheets, they don't, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not compostable. So, you toss those in your dryer and then you take them out and you throw them in the trash, and, God knows what happens to those things after they leave. So like, it's something as simple as laundry can be so incredibly detrimental to the environment. It's crazy.
Well, and it's funny because, Jamie and I put effort into that. Now, Jamie was ahead of me when she moved in. She used to make her own laundry soap. She had a formula of different things you could buy at the store. Was it cheaper? Absolutely not. It was just, but she'd make this huge thing of it. But it also wasn't 98% water.
Okay.
So she already had kind of it going on. But now that we found some of these other options, like I said, those wool balls are 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
No, 5 years old. And we're still using them. Detergent sheets, granted, when someone new comes into the house, my son totally forgot, threw one of the detergent sheets in the dryer, so you're going to have a few hiccups here and there.
Yeah.
But you're not, what I thought about was, when it came to the detergent, was the embodied energy. Embodied energy we talked about years ago, which is how much effort or energy is put into making this product, using this product, and disposing of this product. So think about your detergent. It's big, massive, big, huge jug thing somewhere in the world that's filled with chemicals, and they put it into those jugs.
Mm-hmm.
You've got those plastic jugs that are thick, actually, quite thick.
Very.
They're very durable plastic jugs.
Right.
That no one uses for anything. They make sure they use wild colors and shapes that no one could ever use again for any real purpose. Then wherever it's being produced, that heavy jug, because again, 98% water, 8 pounds a gallon, has to be packaged on a pallet with a bunch of them and then shipped somewhere. That somewhere isn't to your house. That somewhere is to a warehouse where then they will distribute it from the company to another company.
Mm-hmm.
So as people order it, they'll send one pallet here, one pallet there. These things are crossing the country back and forth. Sometimes they're just huge containers full of boat that takes 8 months to get here. And that's a lot of weight, which means you got to burn a lot of fuel to get it from place to place, just so that it can be shipped one more time to a supermarket or a store.
Right.
Where then someone else picks it up, unwraps it, and puts it on a shelf so that you can find it, put it in your cart, put it in your car,
Mm-hmm.
and drive it home. Just to use it at 98% water, which is not fun to carry in with all the stuff.
No.
And then when you're all said and done, you got this massively thick jug that I don't know many people who have a legitimate reuse of.
I don't think that's what I was just sitting here trying to think of. Like, how do we reduce the amount of waste that is caused by something as simple as laundry? And it's like, I can't think of a way to even repurpose those jugs. Like,
No, and that's why we quit using them. That's why if you go to greeningyourlife.org and there's a spot in there for stuff we've tried and we like, you can go on and buy them. These are the ones I bought. These are the ones I like. Feel free. They're from Amazon, or find them local. But all that energy goes away. Because even if my detergent sheets came from the same building, let's just pretend they came from the same building, and we put the same amount of product on each pallet that does the same amount of loads.
Mm-hmm.
So a pallet of the detergent that is liquid could be a monster pile of sheets to get the same weight, which means 5, 6, 7, 100 times more of those can be shipped with the same amount of emissions as 48 of them on a pallet for the liquid.
Mm-hmm.
The embodied energy divided by how many is massively smaller from the sheets. So at the very minimum, I have one less massive waste product, because there's only two things I've ever thought of, actually three: filling it full of plastics, put the cap on it, then throw it away. So you're condensing you're bricking to condense a bunch of plastics,
Right.
or throwing it in the bottom of things that you're burying so that it just takes up space.
Yeah.
Or you really freak out the family. It's got a nice pour top. You could put Kool-Aid in it or something, and they just don't know why the detergent's in the fridge.
Right.
But there's not a lot of things. So it's that sustainable thinking as you run across different things. It's worth a try.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those work. But we talked about embodied energy. I want to touch on it again.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe someday embodied energy will be quantified in a way that could be on the front of a package. Just like calories were added, if you can quantify where these products come from in some kind of simplified format, that should have a sticker or something that states the embodied energy. Now, it'd be the production energy, not the shipping and all that other stuff, because there's a lot of stores across the world, they'd have to put a new number on it wherever it went.
Yeah.
But at least the production energy and how much waste, maybe how many ounces of waste, those two numbers, and just in the bottom corner, real small. And that would help people make decisions to make a better decision when they have the opportunity.
I've noticed there's a couple of companies now that will kind of broadcast that to you. Going back to the sneaker conversation, I've noticed like during checkout, it'll say, hey, you're saving X amount of carbon emissions by choosing this shipping method and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, sweet. Like, that makes me feel good. But then I start thinking about it, and it's like, am I really, though? Like, or is this one of those messages where it's just like, it's just out there, just to be out there? Because you think about it, it's a mass-produced shoe that was made from animals. So there's lots of energy that way. Its chances are was made overseas and then shipped here. So there's energy there. The packaging itself being loaded up onto either a UPS or a FedEx or, an Amazon truck or something like that, and then driven across God knows where, and then on another truck driven to my front porch. Like it like, how much energy could I really have saved? So
and what was the dude? Like, what were the methods? Was one of them by pigeon or?
Right. That's what I'm saying. No, that I would have been sweet if there was like an eagle that dropped a pair of Nikes off on my front doorstep, but that did not happen.
An owl bringing your letter.
Oh, I would love that. I guess my question to you is, aside from being really, really diligent on our choices and the products that we use, how can we put a little more focus around making those choices when we know that companies are at times being outright deceitful about their sustainability practices?
I mean, the first thing is do your best. The fact that you're thinking about it is already a win. There's a reason why they pack a bunch of things at the register, because people at times don't think about it. They're impulse purchases. It's literally what they call all those items around the register, because they know humans will have a knee-jerk reaction for want. If you're stopping to at least think about it, you're already winning. You're already doing a good job. That's the biggest thing, is that first step. But there are some people out there that take it a little further. They get to know which companies are which. I think we know that there's like 12 companies in the world that fill a grocery store, and maybe 12 mom and pops total, like in a whole grocery store. So getting to know some of those companies that are a little more sustainable in their operations, if there's any left in that industry, or maybe finding a local option. So a good example is when I buy bread, if we get it from the store, it's preservatives and came from somewhere not here. But often in the summer, we have a cottage industry here, and I'll get maybe one of each, one from the store and one from the local baker, because the local baker one will go bad quicker because it doesn't have the preservatives and all the other stuff in it, but it tastes like bread, which is a huge plus. And we use it for a lot of other things. So if I buy a loaf of bread, it's probably because we're about to have some spaghetti and I want to have a nice big garlic bread. But we'll split it up. You can limit your damage sometimes that way. But the biggest thing is if you're already thinking about it, you can actually, you know what? There is something you can do. You educate yourself on embodied energy. It's not a fun topic at times, but get to know what it means to use more energy to make something. You'll get to a point when you will start looking at packaging differently.
Yeah.
You look over and something's in a box printed versus in those plastic bubbles. And even if it's color print, I grab the box first over the plastic year security bubble. I'm looking for, you got two that are boxes there. Which one's using less ink? It's the same product. We know that most of these companies, like one company makes it and then they put it in 14 different brand names. So am I really getting a different product? Probably not, but I'll take the one with the least damage to it.
Right. I've noticed there's been a focus too, like, in the grocery store specifically, a lot of brands are getting on this, farm to table kick, to make it seem like they are reducing the premise of embodied energy, or their emissions. Everybody likes to use that really buzzworthy phrase, like we're reducing our carbon emissions by making sure we do X, Y, and Z. And it feels like a lot to keep up with. So for me, as a normal minded consumer, somebody who doesn't have as much sustainability focus as yourself, like how in the world do I keep up with this blitzkrieg of buzzwords and, I would like to say, emotional ploys to get me to buy a product when there may not actually be much sustainable efforts behind it?
Currently, there isn't a ton. There's a handful of brands that work really hard and most people know them. Your Patagonia, Costco, ones that try to, where they can, do the right thing. So there really isn't a ton of them. The best way to reduce is to not buy, but there's a lot of consumer things happening. The second best is to look for the best choice. But if you don't know what that is, the third best choice is offset it with your positive footprint. Do something else that helps someone, that reduces waste, that gets someone else to reduce waste, because that little bit, big bit that becomes a community thing is a big deal. So sometimes you're looking at something. I mean, here's the deal. You want to buy an Xbox, you can look in any different way you want. It's not sustainable. It is what it is, But you can go and help in the community today and bring your kid with you who thinks, okay, maybe I should be doing this occasionally. Do something that increases your positive footprint. The thing that people do the worst is take their own bags to a store. I mean, they got a closet full of them. Well, we're in the Midwest. Not only do you have a closet full of cotton bags, but you also have a drawer full of plastic bags because you're in the Midwest. You got to have the bag of bags. Okay. Now I applaud you because that means you plan to use it a second time in some way. We have all these bags. Why are we not taking these bags back to the store? It was never even a consideration. It was just, it's our monument to plastic over here.
Right.
Once in a while it can go as a lunch bag or a trash can liner, but you got 63 of them from grocery shopping and you really only swap the trash out maybe once a week,
If even that. Some
right.
people aren't even that frequent.
I now have people bringing me their bags of bags. I use it as the bags that we give back out to customers at Dabble for things that they buy.
Okay.
Or I wrap up 3D prints in them and put it, here you go. I always hand it to them and say, make sure you use those bags one more time. That gives me 3. We want to focus on positive footprint, especially right now when there's a lot of negativity and a lot of people are, in a sense, sad. Companies are blatantly rude when it comes to sustainability. The best thing we can do is something good. And it does not matter what it is. I don't care if you just hold the door open for someone or smile at them, make their day better. You see something on the ground, pick it up. If you have something that needs to be taken care of, take care of it. These little things. Because if someone sees you bring your own bags, they go, I never thought about just bringing the damn bag of bags with me. I thought that was just my Midwest collection next to my junk drawer.
Right.
So in case anybody's out there doesn't know what a junk drawer is, it's the drawer in your kitchen where if you don't have a place for something, that's where it goes.
Goes in the drawer, and nothing's off limits. There are remote controls. There's Taco
TVs
Bell
you don't
sauce
even
packet.
have anymore.
I know.
Next to a soy sauce packet.
For sure.
Sometimes you got a packet drawer, but it depends on how big your kitchen is.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's you're super baller in my mind. If you have both a junk drawer and a sauce packet drawer, you're doing very well for yourself. Congrats.
Yeah. So I know this show gets listened to all over the world. We're sorry. That's it. It's yeah. Anyways, so this stuff it can be taxing. So the whole idea is when you do something good for someone, it makes you feel good. It makes them feel good. And sometimes it throws a little faith in someone else. And every once in a while, someone will see you do it, want to do it themselves. That's how you build your positive footprint. We talked about January being a wellness month, a mental wellness month. That's how I deal with things. Remember, not too long ago, I was pretty down. We weren't doing a lot of the shows. I was having a hard time maintaining all of the projects. My brain fog was ridiculous. I never understood that term until someone would ask me a question. In my head, I know that answer, but I can't find it, and I'm just staring at you. That is tough. And you got to continue to work on the good stuff. Now, granted, I got a little help. Mine was Magic Mind. I took that to help with, I didn't care about extra energy. I didn't care about the vitamins, although I should. I cared about the brain fog thing. So when you're looking at like your mental health, there's a physical aspect to it. You have to focus on more than just the vitamins and stuff like that. So just so you know, recently Magic Mind also sent me something completely different, and it's a sleep aid.
No way.
I said the last time I lost a ton of weight is because I went to bed on time. I didn't eat after 8. Apparently, if you're unconscious, you can't eat a bag of Doritos. I guess that's kind of the thing. But I used to go to bed at a reasonable hour, and I woke up early, and it was still 8 hours of sleep. But as I get older, I can never seem to get 8 hours of sleep. By the time I shut the laptop or I'm done editing a show or whatever it is, it's midnight. I'm getting up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. No wonder I'm having problems. Well, they helped me with the brain fog. So they decided to throw me a little help on the sleep aid now. So I've got those. I've started taking them. I will tell you, I don't know if it's placebo, but the first one I drank, I don't necessarily like the taste of the sleep aid. I treat it like it's medicine. I chase it but I slept like a baby. It was kind of like I woke up and was not wanting to be awake. Like I could have slept another hour. So we'll see how it goes. It may have just been a placebo effect because it says it's pretty accumulative. Jamie was looking at it. It's got like lavender in it. And was it calamine or cala something? That's a tea.
Chamomile.
Yeah. So I've been told that's the flavor that I don't like.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but that's the flavor I don't like. It's the chamomile with a little bit of lemon. It's not for me. I'm not a big lemon person to begin with, but I'm going to take them because I need to for my health and to get the right amount of sleep and then have the right vitamins in the morning and the right herbs and all those things to have the brain circulation. So I'm going to try it. And so far, like I said, Magic Mind, if they left, I'm still drinking. That stuff is, they won me on that one. But they're now doing because they understand there's multiple things: sleep, exercise, diet, stress management, all those things, they're all part of that mental wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about sustainability. That's some serious core to it, right?
All right.
So just so everybody knows, there's a link in the description below. They're now doing packages of 12 and 12. So 12 of the mental performance drinks with 12 sleep aids. And you can get 45% off on those packages
smokes.
down in the description. So I'm happy to tell people that because, again, they've sent me everything. They're actually kind of cool. I've got drinks. I don't worry about. I got drinks,
Right.
But I got gummies now. It's big, huge bag of gummies. I've got now the sleep aids. So I'm going to be trying all of them. We'll see if maybe I'll start recording my weight, and we'll see if just sleeping through the snacky time helps. But
that's awesome. I'll have to check that out, man. Did they give you? Do you have like a specific promo code or anything too, or is it just the link?
Just the link. Take the link in there. It gives you the 12 and 12, so it's the 24 pack. And again, I like the taste of the mental performance drink. Jamie doesn't. She doesn't like that one. She likes the sleep aid, so she must like that chamomile tea or whatever. I don't, but it's not going to stop me.
Right.
It's 1 ounce. I take my medicine before bed, but it helps calm you down. I'm not sitting there scrolling on a screen. If I take it a little bit before bed, maybe an hour before bed or so, lay down and I'm good.
You're out. Nice. I'll have to check that out myself.
So anyways, the staying on this mental health aspect, national stuff can drive you crazy. I have watched people around me mentally degrade. And I'll tell you, they'll never think they are, and that's okay. And maybe they think I am. But I've watched significant changes in people. We used to laugh at the old guy who yelled at the TV when we were kids. How many of my friends are the old guy who yells at the TV now? How do we get there? Are we not getting enough fulfillment in the day that we got to go and watch this over and over again? Some people can't. I had one friend when I was a kid who would not go out during Friends and watch that show. I've got dozens of people who will not leave the house during certain news stuff. They got to get that dose of happy or angry or whatever emotion they're getting from it. National stuff can be taxing.
Yeah.
It can be hard. You and we are on social media because it's part of being on a podcast, part of doing the things that you do. You've got Blue Sky. Follow me there if you can. You've got all
shameless plug.
You like that? Instagram, all of them. TikTok for like 4 more days. All these things that we do, and we have to see the other stuff sometimes.
Right.
It's hard to just manage those accounts and get back off. And that's that second part of sustainable thinking is your own personal mental health, your sanity. That is why when people started sending me emails like, what are we going to do after the election? I said, worry about your 3 miles. That's a small enough scope. Now, if that's too big of a scope, worry about your house.
Yeah.
What can you do in your house to make things a little better? Or your yard, or you and your neighbor. Whatever scope you have to get through hard times, do not let things you cannot control ruin your mental health.
Yeah, I have kind of started falling into that myself, as I said, offline. There is a lot of uncertainty and anxiety and fear and confusion all over the place. And I think now more than ever is the time to cling to those things that bring you happiness. And I can see where, doing the things around your 3 miles or even in your house can directly lead to sustainability because you're less likely to purchase the stuff that you don't actually need. You're less likely to be wasteful. You're less likely to over consume at that point, because you have something distracting you, so to speak. And I was just kind of inventorying all of the things that I want to do around the house, and there's like infinite amount of projects that I can work on. And I think, I'm right there with you, man. I think if we all could put a bit more focus on not specifically worrying about what's going on and just really getting back to doing the things that impact our immediate circle, I think we'll all be a lot better off.
Yeah, it all got disrupted in COVID, and you have to pick your own scope, because I know my scope's different than your scope.
Mm-hmm.
Every person's their capacity is different. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a comfort way.
Mm-hmm.
For me, being a figurehead and speaker and promoter of Durand and helping the community become more sustainable, be able to bring new projects to the town and be able to do some things that help the community is a recharge factor for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes me mad because you got someone who just tries to stop it or tries to get in the way or hates that change or whatever mental tragedy they have going on in their head. But 9 times out of 10, we're just making life better for people.
Right.
And that is fun. Today I got to do kids STEM. I do those things in robotics because it's recharging. When things are bad, watching aha moments in kids that were a little timid to begin with, that'll fire you up right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to find those things. It might be gardening. It might be you mow your lawn and you keep going, you knock out the neighbors at the same time because they had a knee injury or something.
All right.
Just what, when you pull in, take someone's cans back up to their house. Just whatever it is, we can control that narrative by, first of all, ignoring the national. And I get it. You want to know what's happening in the world. I have a young man who's part of the National Guard now. So knowing some of that stuff has some purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But I am not going to dwell on it. I am going to, if I have nervous energy, Dabble's about to do something.
All right.
We're about to create. We're about to come up with something to get rid of that nervous energy or help others. Because if I'm nervous, people are probably just as nervous.
Mm-hmm. More nervous.
Maybe.
More.
And, so you have to find a way to focus on the right things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be hard at times.
Yeah, I know that it can. Like you try your best to, like I said, kind of distract yourself or get into these, different projects. And, somebody may message you and go, "Oh my God, did you just see what came across from the New York Times?" Or you have this going on, or you have that going on. And it's, it becomes increasingly more difficult that way. I do want to ask you, though, because, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I watch a lot of these so-called talk shows and things like that. And everybody likes to ask the Mount Rushmore question, right? What's on your Mount Rushmore of things? So I want to kick that to you, just, kind of along the same talk points of what we've been discussing. What is on Mike's Mount Rushmore of mental self-care? What do you do when the noise gets a little too loud or things gets a little too busy to kind of reset and recenter?
Well, there's 2 different things. There's sad and there's exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anger's in there somewhere maybe, but these are those emotions that become overwhelming.
Okay.
Now remember, whatever you're watching or listening to, if they're trying to make you angry or scared, turn it off. Those are 2 emotions used for manipulation. Doesn't mean you get away from it. I have it. Same thing. I've been sad as of late. I was sad when Jimmy Carter died, not because of politics, because this was a person who dedicated his life to other people.
Yeah.
Not even just when people figured out who he was. He was doing it beforehand. This is a person that once he was no longer president, enjoyed working at Habitat for Humanity every single day. When you lose a soul like that, it's sad. And I hope I'd like to put together a little tribute and just kind of educate some people on some wonderful things he did and how he jump-started sustainability factors like solar.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, if I'm to the point where I'm overwhelmed, the first thing is go for a walk. Now, hopefully you don't run into something that makes you mad or angry on the walk, because I live in a small town. But the first thing is fresh air. That gets you touch the ground. That's your grounding. You got to take a time out and go for a walk. I come back in. If it happens a lot with the projects that we have. And I have a lot of irons in the fire. And sometimes all of those irons are hot at the same time.
Mm.
And so I have to clear my mind, go for a walk. Now, another thing I like to do is either call my son or my daughter, just say hi, because that reminds me that's one of the largest joys in my life. Doesn't matter what we talk about, just want to hear the voice. And then because of the overwhelming, if it is overwhelming because of task, the paper comes out, the list gets written, and you just start at the top with no mind of anything below it until that top one is done and move down. If it is because I caught the news and something terrible happened and I'm sad, once I do that reset, I start remembering that the world isn't bad. More babies make it today than ever at any time in history. There's less hungry people on the planet today than any other time in history. There's less violence. There's less, abduction, all these things, less today than any other time in history. We just have the internet and it makes it feel like it's more.
Everything is amplified.
Everything is, it used to be when you lived in a neighborhood, unless a child was taken from your neighborhood or the neighboring neighborhood, you would never hear.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your city or the neighboring city. Now you hear about all of them, which makes it feel like in your city, all those kids have been abducted. It's not true. It's globally. So it's not that there's necessarily more. It's just you hear about it more.
You're right.
And I have to remember that. I have to remember that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to kind of reset and go, what is good? Well, nature, go for a walk. My kids. And then I sit and reflect. This is the best time in human history. We may not like it. It's also not even the worst time in a generation.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to be thankful for. And when you shrink it down to your direct surroundings, I'm an extremely blessed person. I have a very good job. I may not always like it, but I have a good job. I have a home. I have the ability to help a community. I have the ability to help kids in a neighboring town. I have multiple buildings that I use to help communities. I'm a pretty lucky guy. So if I'm getting mad and I'm stomping my feet and throwing a little fit, I need a little perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It can be way worse. And that's what I do. So I don't know if I met the standard of the Mount Rushmore, but it is how I mentally manage those big scopes and shrink them back down to that 3 miles.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty solid answer, man. Yes, you touched on 4 different topics there, and I guess we can count that as a solid Mount Rushmore.
Well, sometimes I've been outside, my brain racing, and Jamie always plants sunflowers in front of the house. And if you go out at the right time, you get all the bumbles. They're towards the night. They're starting to get full. They've got it pollen packed all around it, but they're going to sleep there for the night. And I will pull up a chair and just watch them. The magic of nature can really kind of cleanse you of silliness. And I will sit there for an hour and watch this bee slowly go to sleep as it's packing things onto itself. Or sometimes they fly away and another one comes in. It's led me, and people have heard me say this, it's led me to petting the bumblebees. Jamie has seen it. They're just like tiny little flying pandas. And you just want to hug them, but they're too small. So you got to pet them with your finger. And if I ever die from bee stings, it's because they got mad and teamed up on me. But I don't want to hurt them. I just want to pet them.
I've never heard of that before in my life, but that is awesome.
Listeners, if you see this, post on it if you've done it. Because towards the end of the night, and they're very full, they get very docile, and you can pet them. Never been stung yet. Knock on wood, I guess. But that's you can relax with nature.
Right. Are there any things that you like to do outside of nature, or any suggestions, like, a homebody, socially anxious nerd such as myself? Are there any non-outdoor activities that are both enriching and sustainable minded?
I'm taking you hiking one of these. You're coming hiking one of these times. Maybe we get you and the wife, me and the wife will go down to Hawking Hills down in Ohio, where it's big, it's huge, it's beautiful. It's exhausting. And go see waterfalls and all kinds of wonderful things. One of these days, I may have to trick you and tell you I'm taking you to the hospital or something. But
yeah, you'll have to hit me with the BA Baracus. You'll have to just.
But the things I like to do that have nothing to do with nature has to do with making someone else smile. One of the things I used to teach the kids, and not all the kids enjoyed this. Aiden took onto it pretty well. The rest of them revolted a little, but going someplace where the kids are playing like video games and all this stuff, like a Chuck E. Cheese type place, but their last coins have to just be set on a machine and left. So they have a pocket full, and when you're done, but the last two, just set it on a machine and leave.
Wow.
Because I don't know if you've ever had the joy of being done. You're out, but there's one more coin. Or you're in the pop machine and you check the change thing and there's change in there. I have joy. Doesn't matter if I'm getting a car wash. I leave the last bit of coins up on the car wash because I don't know who is going to be happier in hell, but I guarantee they will be.
Somebody will be. Yeah, that's actually funny because that's one of my greatest joys in life are running into the arcade guardian angels, like the people who are just killing it. Maybe they've completed the game already and they leave with, one or two extra credits. So you can literally just walk up to the machine, hit start, and dive into your own adventure. So yes, I can identify. It's funny that you mentioned that. That is literally one of my, you can see I'm lighting up talking about it. It's one of my favorite things ever, man. Is
for joy.
It is. There's probably no better feeling than that, So thank you for teaching your kids that, because that's a really awesome feeling.
I mean, it teaches them to not go, look what I did. It teaches, to this day, I couldn't say who or if anyone even got them, It's easier than trying to pay for someone's coffee at McDonald's. If you've ever tried to pay for people behind you at McDonald's, they try to make it as challenging as humanly possible.
Causes pure chaos.
It does. It's like they got to get a manager and there's keys involved and they're staring you down while I got to run your card 7 times if you want to pay for 7 people. Like, well, then run the card. It's like our society tries so hard to not let you help someone. So finding those things, finding those little things that you can do is a blast. So for an introvert, what better way to help everybody by not being seen helping everybody?
Yeah. Wow. A guardian ninja. I like that. It's even better than a guardian angel. A guardian ninja, out of sight, out of mind. That's awesome.
Oh, there's no limit. Go to the laundromat, do the same thing. No one likes going to the laundromat. No one goes there and doesn't need to do laundry. Everybody who's there is doing laundry because they had to be there. They had run out of underwear. They had bought another pack and they had run out of underwear again and barely had enough to get it washed. So, make their day better.
Yeah. That's such a simple premise, but I feel like it's so difficult to pull off sometimes. And not for me specifically, but, I think people get so lost in the self-preservation fact that it is literally like pulling teeth to part with those things,
I've got problems with the 80s. That's where a lot of that came from. That greed is good. What do I get out of it? Those who die with the most toys wins. All those silly concepts, all that consumerism, all that me, a massive chunk of it was glorified by the 80s through political factors, through TV and radio, through how economic systems work and capitalism, messed up communities and some of the thought processes that make people people. And to this day, the silly things that we are doing by throwing coins here and putting seeds over there and all these things still draws anger and hate. And no matter how mad someone gets at me, I buy them a coffee or thank them. I appreciate you telling me your side. Staying positive, continuing to do those things is important because there was a whole chunk of years where people were just taught to be cutthroat and step on your neighbor to get yourself a little more. And sustainability is about community. We're literally just going back to what grandma and grandpa used to do. If the neighbor was in trouble, my grandpa went. That's just community.
All right.
There isn't a feel good about yourself. Pull over on the side of the road and help someone change a tire. But your first thing in your mind probably was, what if they're a killer?
Right. Yeah.
But they're not.
Right.
You're a
Yeah.
person with a crappy day and a flat tire.
I think I feel like a lot of times I hate being that guy. We've been conditioned, but I feel like at the same time, that's still true. Like we've been conditioned to be distrusting of our friends and of our family and of our neighbors, even. Like, they very well, your neighbor could be a serial killer, one of those sort of things. But ultimately, it's so unlikely, but those are the thoughts that, keep us from being helpful.
It's not real. I mean, yes, things happen, but life isn't a Netflix special. Life is people, and I don't care what country you're in. I know some people won't leave this country because they think every country they'll get killed in.
Right.
It's the same thing every place you go, is people just trying to live their life to the best of their ability. They mean well. They want to do well, and if they're angry, it's probably because something happened to them. It's not because they're definitely a bad person. There's a lot of people in this world that have made me mad that aren't bad people. They had a bad day. So when you're looking at this stuff, and I know we're supposed to be talking about the macro, the world scope stuff.
Yeah.
But it's all resolved locally.
Right. I was just about to say that seems to be the central theme is, when everything starts to get too big and too heavy, retreat to your circle, your 3 miles.
And you may not have the extra money to pay, to disrupt the whole McDonald's and ruin their day to pay for someone behind you.
Yeah.
By the way, if you work for McDonald's, fix that.
Yes.
Anyways, it's so bad.
And the ice cream machines too.
Well, FBI got involved on that. We'll talk after the show. You may not have the money to just buy a meal and have them put that prepaid ticket at the register and say, if someone comes in that needs one, this is their meal. But you probably can pull a weed. You don't have to pull them all. Just pull one. As you're walking down the street, go do something and you see that bottle on the ground, pick it up. Just the one. If there's 2 pieces there, just pick up one if you don't really want to get them both. Just any positive action. And it could be holding a door open for someone. You'd be amazed. Every time they go, well, you don't see that much anymore. Why? Why do we not see that much anymore? Or am I getting too physically close to another human being where I may have to interact? Hold the door open, smile, have a great day. It's easy. It is easy to have a good day and really change someone else's day. And I think that is how you solve some of those mental things. Now, I told you I had to do some outside factors. My diet was crappy and I luckily got Magic Mind gave me drinks and they worked. But now that I have some of that clarity, I have to do more.
Yeah.
So for me, Kid STEM, reading labs, I'll help adults read. I don't care. The whole idea is to just help. It doesn't matter what you're helping for. Right. I get it all the time. Well, what do you get out of it? I'm happy.
Yeah.
I think they're taking advantage of you.
No, not at all. And I don't know if we got away from it or not, but you used to always call those like, the kindness projects sort of things, just being intentional about being helpful.
It's funny how it confuses the hell out of people just doing community-like things. You're amazed how many people say communities aren't what they used to be and then get mad when you do community-like things. So it is, I think that is the end-all be-all of happy. Is you readjust your scope as needed and help others. I don't think I've ever been happier than when I'm doing something for someone else. When you and I get off this call tonight and I'm waiting for it to download, my first phone call is to my friend Mike, who needs help moving a bunch of flooring. Like I said, I've been doing this stuff all day today, working since 6. I'm going to feel good when it's done. He's one of those guys who will do anything for you. He's good-hearted. He's not doing it because he hopes he'll get something later. He wasn't keeping track or tallies, And so I like being that person too. You need help, you just tell me where. And if I can be there, I'll be there. And I'll feel good tonight when I'm tired and exhausted from moving heavy flooring boxes in my chunky frame.
Well, that's two birds with one stone. You're getting some physical exercise out of it, and you're helping a friend. So,
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Hopefully, everybody gets something out of this show. I know it's hard to talk about sustainable thinking in a solid, structured way. It's an abstract concept, especially when the rest of the world focuses on the profitability of negative. And you're almost weird. People are almost confused. I have an email from a nice gentleman in town that we were talking about possibly making a deal for some houses, and he ended up with a really bad
mhm.
hernia surgery. And I just checked on him. And you would have thought I saved his life. All I did was check on him. It is literally the least I can do was to
Yeah,
send an email, not even a phone call or a text message, just an email. We're not talking business. I just need to know you're okay. Or if you need something, I can bring you soup. What do you need?
right.
And you would have thought that I had done the most remarkable thing. And it makes me sad
Hmm.
that that is the result. So I
Yes.
urge everybody to go help someone in some way so that no one is ever wowed by the fact that you've done the bare minimum.
Unfortunately, man, sometimes I know it shouldn't feel this way, but sometimes you literally can save someone's life just by reaching out. So, once again, kudos to you for always keeping that mindset, people first and always being progressive in that mindset.
Well, and that's not necessarily a just me thing. My mom, my grandfather, these are people who were raised in the same exact manner.
Hmm.
That's why I think that's why I drew to sustainability so quickly was it reminded me of family members that I definitely admire.
Gotcha.
And it takes you back to when I was a kid and what they did. You'll hear stories. I talk about, grandpa uses the hammer till it breaks, then he fixes it and uses it till it breaks and it can't be fixed. And then the hammer part's a doorstop and that handle got cut off and was made into a lever.
Hmm.
That hammer had 9 lives before it left. Its life cycle isn't the life cycle of today's hammer. It
Right.
had 8 different life cycles. And so I think there's some sentimental value for me. But I think if everybody stopped and thought about it, there's probably some for everybody.
There's enough to go around.
So I urge every person who gets to hear this today, guard your mental health. And I mean that as strong as I can. I mean that. Guard your mental health. If you have family members that are toxic and you struggle and it makes your day harder and harder, you do what you need to do to make sure you are healthy. If that means go talk to someone, then go talk to someone. If that means meet up with a friend, I do this thing where I just check on Mr. Bogan and he just checks on me just to make
Hmm.
sure that we're all right. There's things that you can do, but shrink your scope, turn off the television, stop letting those things, at least those things, put you in a bad spot. Take this time to reevaluate what is good. And if you don't see any good, be some good. Someone else will see it. Your positive footprint, if you don't see any good around you, and you start doing good things, your positive footprint is going to jump in leaps and bounds because people are good by nature and they want to do good things. Sometimes they just need someone to do it first. So as others start to pick up on the good, your positive footprint starts to really grow. So I urge everybody who's listening today, guard your mental health. That doesn't mean be a jerk to someone else. It means share love, share compassion, understanding even for those you don't understand. I always tell someone, you want to do something great today, buy coffee for someone you hate because you really probably shouldn't hate them. So hopefully everybody gets something out of this show. And for myself, again, I want to remind everybody, yes, we've partnered with Magic Mind, but for me, myself, that is an important factor for how I've been able to readjust my mindset.
Yeah.
If you want to support your mental and physical health, use the discount code below and just try it. And if you have tried it, because they let me know, there's actually a decent amount of people who have. Let me know how you like it. I know I never really think it's gonna I don't feel like as an influencer,
Mhm.
but people will do something. I want to hear the stories. I want to hear if it got better or worse, whatever. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I just want to know if there's a beneficial side to it all for everybody else. So right now, again, the 24 pack that gives you a more balanced pack than the normal ones. That is your mental performance drink and your sleep aid all in one, 45% off. Just click the link. And remember, we are literally just trying to get a little better each day. I can never say it enough. Little bit, big bit. It's very important. Now, before we close, Mr. Bogan, I do this to you every time. You got to tell everybody where to find you and all your socials and all the things.
I just have to say, before I plug myself, man, I absolutely enjoy being on here every single time. And I love the little bit, big bit, because it's so true. For me, if you are into things, technology or pop culture related, or if you just like to nerd out about really cool things, you can find me over at The Curated Culture. You can find me via at The Curated Culture on Facebook or Instagram, at _Curated Culture on X, although that is a very giant cesspool right now. So you can also check us out over on Threads and on Blue Sky. And if you want to follow me personally, at Robbie Diesel, all over the place, type in Robbie Diesel and you'll see my beautiful brown face smiling back at you. So make sure you give me a follow over there, and check out youtube.com/Robbie Diesel for a lot of really fun and interesting things from my life and beyond.
Well, I have to tell you, you made the comment about X. I closed it.
Did you?
Just closed. I did. I opened Blue Sky. I closed it. It was either naked or angry people. That's it. That's all it was either. And some of them were both.
Yeah, very true.
I don't know if it was just my feed or what, but it's not. I'm done. I'm out. It's enough. I used to follow, John Green and Hank Green and some people there. I can follow them other places.
Definitely.
We're good.
Definitely.
So I just wanted to say that there is no following me on X. It's over. I shut it down. So if you want to follow on Threads or Blue Sky or TikTok for 8 more days or whatever it is, I'd love you. Plus, in the description below, I do have like my personal Facebook stuff. You're more than welcome to follow, see a little behind the scenes kind of thing. So any of those will be down in the section below here. But again, I hope everybody has gotten the point of this show, that it is important. Exercise when you can. If that just means park a little further back when you go somewhere, do it. Try to eat better. I'm a big guy. Takes a lot of salads to keep this size on. But I am constantly working. I've already done the meat reduction. So I'm now making some other changes. Remember those things. It's those stress management, getting the sleep. That's why it's so important for me now. Next step is getting the sleep. So hopefully we've gotten those points across. I appreciate each and every listener. And Mr. Bogan, it's always an honor that you take time out of your day and come in here and share your wisdom with us. I greatly and always appreciate you.
I appreciate you for having me on, man. Thank you so much.
Well, that's all we have for you guys tonight. So I hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, share it with a friend, share it on social media, or just click like or follow. All of those things help. Leave a comment. Tell me if you've tried Magic Mind and you want to tell me how it is, or you've got a story about sustainable thinking. Throw it in. We really appreciate you. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.